Thank Hashem. We're able to learn every day. Because of our learning, we should have Beis Hamikdash immediately.
Yeah. You say that every day.
Yeah, it's working.
Yeah.
Okay. Kanidrei Rishon. We start a new Mishnah on top of Tess. Tess, I'm a Aleph. Right at the top. Kanidrei Rishon. Someone's going to take a vow. It says, I'm taking a vow like the wicked take a vow. A vow of the wicked. So a vow of like the wicked take. Now, right now, the Gemara doesn't say what terms he's saying together with that. Right now, all we have is the phrase, the vow of the wicked. Like the vow of the wicked. That's only
what's a good.
He doesn't say, well, he doesn't say he's taking on me. Right now, the Gemara doesn't tell me that. I'm taking on myself, or this should be, or it is to me. He's not saying those. I don't even know what that would be called. Preposition, maybe the way it relates to him. That'd be a preposition. To me, from me, on me. Those are prepositions, right? So he's not right now. The Gemara doesn't say what those are. So, but the rule is, if he does say that, then Nadar ben Nazir b'karban b'shvua. This fellow, because he said like the vow of the wicked, he's now a Nazir. He has to bring a sacrifice. Doesn't tell me which sacrifice, and he has to. He's not allowed to eat that whatever food it was that was in front of him.
To be a Nazir, don't you just have to say? You have to.
Yeah, he has to say. He has to say that he's a Nazir.
It seemed like that was
Right. Right. We don't have any details yet. We'll see in the Gemara. Or should I give it away now? I'll give it away. I'll give it away. What's going to happen, what the Gemara is going to explain is that there's three options over here. If he says, Harini Kinidre Rishayim, I am as the wicked would vow, then he becomes a Nazir. If he says, like the wicked vow is upon me, then he has an obligation to bring a sacrifice. If he would say, this is to me, or I am from it, like the wicked vow, then he's not allowed to eat that food that was in front of him. So it's depending on the preposition, that would be his. However, if he says kinidrei ksherim, if he says like the vow of the righteous, then he hasn't said anything. Why? Because the righteous don't vow. They don't take vows. We're looking here at a vow as something that someone would do impulsively, and the righteous don't do that. The people, like my kids say, okay, that's it. I'm not coming to the table. That's it. I'm not getting the right seat. You know, like
Protest.
a protest, right?
Rabbi, is this like what we said yesterday, that it was a vow that was already taken at Mount Sinai and it's again?
No. So that's an interesting point. That creates a little bit of a problem. Hillel's bringing up that yesterday we learned that the righteous do take a vow. They vow to encourage themselves to. See, the Ran actually asked. That's a very, very good point. The Ran asked that question. And the Ran says that would only be if something was a mitzvah, but here we're dealing with things that aren't the mitzvah.
By what you said about impulsivity, it's also really interesting how most crimes, like capital crimes, or the time between the thought of the crime and the crime taking place is like split seconds. These are not things that are thought out usually.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a whole movie about that's really
like
good.
Premeditated.
Right. Yeah. Most murders seems like that. It's just thought came in the head and the action takes place.
Wow. That's unbelievable.
The Torah also says like if a thought of a mitzvah comes to mind, we have to do it immediately before they eat the heart. Like kind of like changes our mind.
I'm not sure. So here, Kinijay Rishayim, I'm sorry, Kinijay Ksherim, he doesn't say anything because the Ksherim don't do that. However, what the Ksherim do, how do the Ksherim pledge and all of that? They do something else. It's called Kinidvaisam. They do a Nedava instead of a Neder. The difference between a Neder and a Nedava is that a Neder is when he accepts on himself, he obligates on himself. He says, Harei Alai, he's accepting on himself. And until he fulfills that, the obligation is still upon him. And the Dava is when he says Harei Zu. He takes the object and he says, this is being given. This is good. So
Not for
then
himself, for others.
he's going to dedicate something to the temple. It's going to make it into a sacrifice. So when he says Harei Zu, so then if it gets lost, he's not responsible. The thing is already dedicated. He's already dedicated. When he says Harei Alai, I can take a pledge. When's he going to give it? I don't know. Just, that's like a pledge that someone makes. By an aliyah or something, you have to get the money together to pay it. But when he says Harei Zu, he already has the item and he's ready to give it. Problem over here is, okay, let's take a look at the halacha. Can advise him if he says like the gift or like the pledge, not the pledge. Pledge would be a neder, like the gift of a righteous person, then Nadar ben Nazir b'karban. He's now vowed to be a Nazir and to bring a sacrifice. The Gemara is going to discuss why it just used the word vow when a second ago it said that it was a gift, not a vow. And because we just made a contrast between a gift and a vow. A neder or nedava. And nedava is the positive one, the neder was the negative one where he still owes it, even if he loses money, he still owes it. The nedava is, if he loses it, it's lost. He already had pledged it. Now, the Ran goes through an interesting point. If you want to see it in the Ran, vehicle and Medak. The Ran is on the outside of the pit. Sorry?
Drop Shavua.
Drop Shavua.
Is that because Shavua always applies?
Because
to the person?
he's not going to make the Shavua. A kosher person doesn't make a shvua. Shvua in what we're talking about here is that he's not going to eat this bread. He won't make that shvua. But he will become a kosher person, will become a nazir, a righteous person will become a nazir, and he will also pledge a sacrifice. But he just does it differently.
Which Ron are you on then?
In the Ran can advise him. In the middle he says Vikala Medak. The Ran asks that there's a difference between a gift and a pledge when it comes to a sacrifice. You can say, I accept on myself to give a sacrifice, or I can accept on myself, or this item is the sacrifice, right? I pledge this item.
Yeah.
So that's the difference between neder and nedava. But how does he make that distinction between by a nazir? What's the difference by a nazir between a neder and a nedava? We said if he says kinidre ksherim, then he's not a nazir. If he says kinidvais ksherim, then he is a nazir. What's the difference in neder and nedava by a nazir? So the Ran comes up with the theory that a neder is not 100% willing. The reason why he says I pledge to give it is because he hasn't really worked out exactly what he's giving, and it's not 100% that he wants to. But a nedava is much more willing. He's already decided what it's going to be, and he already has it right here, and he's giving it. He's ready to give it. So we're not really talking about the difference between is it upon me, or the difference between upon me or this item. We're really talking about how willing he is to take on this this new thing, and that's the difference between a neder and a dava. The Ran is Rabbeinu Nissim, and I think he was in the 1400s, and he got put on the page where Taisvus usually is. See, there's Rashi is always on the inside margin, and then Taisvus is always on the outside margin. But in Zechna Nedarim, the printer put the Ran on the outside margin, where Taisvus usually is. And then he put the Taisvus where you would have like Rabbeinu Gershon or something. You'd on the very outside. So the Ran takes over the commentary. It's like the primary commentary instead of Rashi. So, yeah, the Rashi over here doesn't seem to be from Rashi. It's just a commentary. And they call it the Mefarish on Nedarim. Some said that it was written by Rashi's daughters.
Yeah, really.
But that's not a reason why we shouldn't learn it. That's why a reason why we should learn it.
So the Ran,
The Ran has stuff that the supposed Rashi doesn't have, or it's
Well, the Ran is a very beautiful commentary, but what he does is he mixes it's like a mix between Rashi and Tosfos. He says the Pshat and he also has questions on Tosfos we have. So it's harder to prepare because he doesn't just give you the simple thing. He like mixes in all things that just make things confusing. He mixes that in, but he writes it very clearly. His writing is beautiful. You know, Tosfos is hard. Tosfos doesn't write as clear. You have to read Tosfos twice. You know, the Ran you can read it once. Okay. Where are we holding in the Gemara? So the Gemara asks, I gave it away already, but the Gemara asks, maybe what he meant to say when he takes the vow of the wicked, maybe he meant to say is that I'm not taking the vow of the wicked. We didn't add in any preposition of it's on me, it's not on me, it's this. We just said, like the vow of the wicked. And now, how do you relate to that? Like what does that associate with you? So we didn't say anything. So Amar Shmuel, so Shmuel comes in over here. Shmuel's the first generation Amira that comes in and explains what the Mishnah is talking about. It says, Ba'imer Knidri Rishayim Hareini, or he says a lie, which would mean Knidri Rishayim a lie, or he says Knidri Rishayim Behimenu. I added in the words Knidri Rishayim to say that what he's doing is he's relating it to himself in one of the three ways of the vows of the wicked is upon me, or is I am like the vows of the wicked are upon me, or I am removed from this, or I am from this like the vows of the wicked. Well, what does this mean? If he says Hareini bin Azira, Hareini, he says if it's I am like the vows of the wicked, obviously he's referring to himself, so then he becomes a Nazir bin Aziris. If he says upon me, a lie, it means he's accepting on himself a pledge, then that would be the Karban. If he says Himenu from it, that means he's removed from it, then that would be B'shvua, that he's not going to eat it. Gemara asks the question, how do you know that Hareini means I am, like Hareini Makabel, I am accepting upon myself, right? So how do you know that Hareini means that he's going to be a Nazir? He's supposed to add in the word the bin Naziris, Hareini bin Nazir. Dilma Hareini B'tainis. Maybe he means I am accepting on myself to fast. How do you know I am? How is it going to continue? He just said, I am like the vows of the wicked. So that could either mean I am a Nazir like the vows of the wicked, or I am going to fast like the vows of the wicked. Maybe he's accepting on himself for fasting. Kamar, that's what he's saying. Well, Amar Shmuel says, Kashaya Nazir Revelafanav.
You get your class?
No,
What happened?
I'll tell you after the class.
Yeah. So this is really a question according to Shmuel's opinion, because what we're dealing here with a yad. He's not actually expressing the full vow, and we're saying that
And
it's
all three
of them. And so we're saying that this yad is good enough. The only problem is that Shmuel was of the opinion before that yadayim sheina mechicha is if it's an ambiguous handle, so then it's not counted. So here whenever we throw in that there's another option, it turns it into an ambiguous handle, and then it shouldn't work. So we said, how do you know that he's saying that he's going to be a Nazir? Maybe he's saying that he's going to take a vow. So now it's a it's ambiguous. It shouldn't work. So it's a question specifically because Shmuel came up here. And Shmuel is the one that holds Yadayim Sheinu Mechichas Le'aviyah. Well, how do we answer this? We said that there was a nazar right in front of him, so that's what we know what he's referring to. Skip the alai b'karban, that's in parentheses. If he says himenu that b'shvua, then that means he took. If he says from it, that means he's taking an oath that he's not going to eat it. Kumar says dilma himenu da'achil nakamar. Maybe it's exactly the opposite. Maybe he says from it, took a vow from it. That means that he's actually going to eat it. And according to Shmuel, it's Yadayim Sheinu Mechichas. It's an ambiguous handle, intimation, and so it shouldn't work. Amarava, Rava says, Damar himenu shlo yochel. He added in the words that he's not going to eat it. The Rabbi explains how it's going to fit according to Shmuel. The Gemara says, if that's the case, then what is it coming to teach us? If he said it so clearly. Usually we have a rule in the Mishnah that's coming to tell me a chiddush. Here, if he actually took a vow that he's not going to eat it, so it's a vow that he's not going to eat it. So what's the big deal? So the Gemara says, well, I could have thought he didn't actually say the word shavua. So I could have thought that by a shavua, maybe there's no yad. Let me see how he explains this. Shvua is an oath.
There are more words of art.
He didn't say shvua shlo yochel. That's according to the Mepharsh says of it.
So in other words, you didn't use the
He
preposition?
didn't use the. He didn't
You
say
didn't say
that.
I?
No, he did say I, but he didn't say I'm taking an oath.
It's meaningful.
He just said, like the vows of the wicked, it is to me, and he didn't say that he's taking an oath. He didn't use the word shvua, but what he means is that it's a shvua. We're explaining that what he means is that it's a shvua.
People still do that in court.
So, we're going to have to say that he's talking about that there's a loaf of bread in front of him. And what he says is that, like the vows of the wicked, this is upon me, this is to me. So, which means that he's, as if he's saying that this is an oath that he's not going to eat it. He has to add in the words, that I not eat it. Like the vows of the wicked, that I not eat it. It is to me. But he didn't say that he's taking an oath. So we're saying that it's a handle. Kamash Malon Hadain, it comes to teach us this. The Rabbeinu Betzalel Ranchberg takes out the word Hadain.
And what is it that you said that meant? Hadain?
Hadain means this.
Hadain in
Yeah.
Aramaic is this.
Yeah, like in Kaddish, we say, Diba Asra Hadain, Diba Chalasar Vasar. Whether it's in this place, Asra means place, or if it's in any other place, Asar Vasar, any other place. Asra Hadain, this place. Okay. Next piece of the Mishnah, it says, Kanidrik Shem Le'yamar Klum, Kanidvaisam Nadar. If he takes a vow like the righteous people, then he hasn't said anything because they don't take vows. But Kanidvaisam, but if it's like their pledge, like their gifts, then he did take a vow to be a nazir and to bring a sacrifice. Mantana, the Shanile Beinedel and Adava. Who is the author? Who is the Tana that actually makes a distinction between a neder and a nadava? A neder is when he accepts on himself, and nadava is when he says this item is, right? As more of a gift. Lema, let us say, Lei Reb Meir v'Lei Reb Yehuda. It's not the opinion of Reb Meir, and it's not the opinion of Reb Yehuda. The Tani, we have a brisa. Now, to learn this brisa, I have to quote to you the verse over here. This is in Keheles chapter 5. It says like this: when you make a vow to God, do not delay paying it, for he has no liking for fools. What you vow, pay. The next verse says, better that you not vow at all than you vow and not pay. Now, it's not so clear when you read it in the Hebrew. There's a way of reading it. We are better that you not vow at all than you vow and not pay. It's not much of a chiddush. Of course, better than not to vow. But one opinion over here is going to read is that better that you not vow at all than even if you vow and pay, because sometimes you'll vow and not pay. So then vow and not pay is actually a reason why better you not vow at all. It's not the contrast. The contrast is right.
Yeah, so, and the thing is, it won't fix that.
Yeah, that's what we mean. That it should be a bli neder. Don't take a vow.
So always.
Yeah, if bli neder works. I think
Those
it
are
will.
options, no,
Uh,
no fundraising this year. We never.
You follow that? The two ways of reading this
Put yourself in a
passage.
dangerous position.
But the toiv asher leitidar, better not to vow than what?
To vow and pay. 'cause you
Than to
put
vow,
yourself
then
in-
even to vow and pay.
'cause you put
or-
yourself
right.
in a
And then the end of the pasuk, mishatidav like the shalim, would be an explanation, because sometimes the vow ends up not being paid. Okay, so let's take a look at this.
No,
The Tanya,
it says, better that you should vow and not pay. It doesn't say vow and pay.
and it doesn't say that, but one opinion is going to read that into
Oh,
the
okay.
text. You'll see. The Tanya was taught in the Brisa, toiv asher leitidar, quoting the pasuk, toiv mizel mizer. Reb Meir says, the first opinion here, she'ina naida kalikar. It's better that he doesn't vow at all. Better than vowing and not paying, or vowing and paying is better than both of those, is to not vow at all. Reb Meir. That's the words of Reb Meir. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, toiv mizel mizer naida mishalim. No, what's better is that he vows and pays, not vow at all. It's good that he should vow. Sort of maybe like to encourage himself.
Never like overpromise.
The Ran says, well, what's the chiddush of that? Um, Ran explains that what we would understand from this is that the person shouldn't think that he gets a double mitzvah. Well, not that it's a double, but he shouldn't think that he gets one mitzvah for pledging, and then he gets another mitzvah for paying. Actually, the mitzvah is really only by the paying, not by the pledging. So you shouldn't think that if he pledges and then he doesn't end up paying, well, at least I pledged. Like that was part of the, like as if that did something.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Oh, boy, they come to this year.
I thought that if you have the intent to do a mitzvah and you end up not doing it, you still get the schus for doing it, as opposed to the contrary with an avera.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyone have an answer for that? Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I've heard that because like Hashem, like you make the comments to Hashem and Hashem like help you. Like, I've even heard of people like
I'm not
making
sure if
checks
that's
like
not-
beforehand. Like this year I want to donate $1 million and they'll make a check.
Man.
They donated it and then like so God willing like
I think there's a specific concept that the intent sometimes like trump the action in and of itself.
Right.
So maybe that's where Muslim is getting that.
Hashem knows the effort that we put into it. So
I don't have a good answer for Dr. Stein, but I think maybe the famous halacha. I think maybe what it means is that you separate the ma'aseh even though you know that you can't right now give it, but once it's separated, and then you end up spending it. You end up spending tzedakah money. Okay. So Rabbi Yehuda says that it's better to take the vow and then to pay it. So whatever the case is, I mean, why are we bringing this in is because we're trying to show that neither of these opinions hold that there's a difference between vowing or pledging or giving it as a gift. There's no difference between neder and nedava. Both of them are saying the same thing. It's better not to do any of those pledges, not to vow that you're going to give it, and not to vow that that this is a gift. Both of them are prior to the giving of it. So you want to give it, just give it, but don't take that on as a pledge, as a. Gemara says, "Afilu tamer Reb Meir." It could be that Reb Meir does distinguish between the two. Kikam Reb Meir beneder. When does Reb Meir say it's better not to take the vow at all? That's when we're dealing with the vow, when he's accepting on himself. Now remember, according to the Ran, this means that when he's not fully sincere. However, benedava leikamar, but Reb Meir would agree that in nedava, to give it as a gift, that is a good thing. Gemara says, "V'haktani kinidvaisam nadar benazar b'karban." There's a little bit of a problem here, because when a person says that he's accepting on himself the gift of the righteous, so he took a vow of a nazar and a karban. It says he took the vow. It just switched language. It turned it into nadar b'nazar b'karban, and not nadav, the gift, nadar, the vow. So the Gemara adjusts this right away. It says, don't worry about that issue. Tani, teach nadav b'nazar b'karban. We'll just switch the resh for a biz. It's just the bottom line, right? Nadar, nadav, bottom line of the resh of the biz. Add in a line over there. Fix it up. Okay, the Gemara says, Maishna noider delay, dilmasil lidek takala, asibal de takala, nadavanami dilmasil de takala. Why is it not good to vow? Because something could come up and you won't be able to keep it. Well, the same thing could happen to the nedava. Something could come up and you won't be able to keep it. Now, what would come up that you won't be able to keep it? So the explanation is like this, that what we're dealing with here is that the difference between the vow, the neder and the nedava. The neder is when he says, I'm accepting on myself. What could come up? Well, he'll delay paying it for too long, and he'll violate the rule of Bal Ta'acher. Can't delay paying the sacrifice, giving the sacrifice for 3 holidays. Well, by the nedava as well, when he pledges this sacrifice, he says this is a gift, points to the animal. This is a gift to the temple. This is a sacrifice. So then, if he delays bringing it, he has the same violation. Why are you making a difference between neder? Oh, neder is no good. Nedava is good, but he could delay that as well. So the Gemara answers, Kihil Azaken. He's doing it like Hil Azaken. Now, I'm not sure if it means that he's adding in the words Kihil Azaken, or if when he says Nidvas Ksherim, the Ran writes, when he says Kinidvas Ksherim, it's automatically Kihil Azaken. That means it doesn't become a pledge until he gets to the temple. Well, how does this work? It's automatically Kihil Azaken. Why? The Tanya, we have a price like this. Amar al Hil Azaken Shleimal Adam Bailasi Kal Yamav. Said about Hil Azaken, Hillel the elder, that no one ever used his an animal that he dedicated. No one ever used it for personal use. Why? Because Meviak Shichul Nazara, he would bring it when it's still a regular mundane animal to the temple courtyard. Now it doesn't mean into the temple courtyard, it means to the entrance of the temple courtyard, because you're not allowed to bring it inside if it's still mundane. Umakdisha, and at the entrance he would consecrate it. And then he would immediately lean on it and shecht it, so there was no delay between it's being consecrated and being slaughtered. So that way, no one would ever violate the rules of not, you can't lean on it, probably, you can't do things with it. if it's can't get personal use from it. Gemara says, "Hani chana David the karbanos." Okay, you've just explained how you could do a karban and nothing bad will come out of it. Why? Because you do it right at the temple entrance, and then there's no delay. So that's why it could be kinidbas ksherim, and no takala, no stumbling block will come out of that. But Nedava the Nazirus Ma'ikla Meimar. What about the Nazir? Maybe that could be a stumbling block. Okay, doesn't explain what the stumbling block would
We
be.
had previously said that a
It's hard
nuzzer
to
can
delay
say,
a
I'm
nuzzer."
going to be a nuzzer at a later date.
Right.
And also, normally, bracha samach las siyasam. So isn't that similar to
Right.
doing kiddush right before
Right.
the smicha?
Right.
Good
Yeah.
coffee today.
Not fire.
I'm just thinking to answer your question that maybe when a person has a thought to do a mitzvah, even if he doesn't do it, it's still considered that he wanted to, then that's enough. That would only be a mitzvah between him and God, but not when it comes to helping another person. That's my guess at this. To help the other person, you actually have to do the help, not just to think that you want to help.
I don't know.
Okay,
I think
prove me wrong.
I think it's right, because you thinking of helping the other person doesn't really help the other person.
But you have good intent.
But only Hashem sees.
The word takala, something from outside that is not your fault.
Right, right.
So
Like
that's-
But isn't that, you might
No,
have
but we
had
said
intent to
before.
help someone else,
You
and
avoid that
then you
problem.
didn't have the money and you couldn't help them, but otherwise you would have helped.
Yeah, but it follows what comes next about Hillel, because he doesn't give it a chance for something to occur that's not his fault, because he doesn't make the commitment so he can.
So
Completed.
he's a procrastinator.
No, he's just the opposite. Hillel
He's
is just the
proactive.
opposite.
Yeah, no,
Depends
going
how
back
you
before
look at it.
Hillel, Dr. Stein asked that why is it that the sages should say, Reb Meir, Reb Yehuda, that if someone pledges, it's better not to pledge at all, right? Better not to pledge at all. And even if he does, even according to Reb Yehuda, that says it's better to pledge and pay, but the schus of it is only at the paying. So why is it only at the paying? Maybe it should be at the pledge, because the thought of doing a mitzvah. So I'm just saying that's only ben adam la makim, the thought of doing a mitzvah, but maybe not. Okay. We understand how you're able to get the karban directly to the temple, pledge it right then, and then immediately sacrifice it, so no mishap should happen. But by a nazir, it's going to become a nazir. It's going to take time. Something could happen. So the Gemara says, "Savala k'Shimon HaTzadik." Builds like Shimon HaTzadik. The Tanya was taught in a brisa. Amar Shimon HaTzadik. Shimon HaTzadik, Shimon HaTzadik was the last of the members of the Great Assembly.
Oh,
It wasn't really the Sanhedrin. It was a group of 120 sages, Anshe Knesset Gdola, that were. Ezra was like the founder of it, and they instituted the prayers, and a lot of things was instituted by them. Men of the Great Assembly. So Shimon HaTzadik, and he was also a Kohen Gadol. So I'm a Shimon HaTzadik. All the days that I was there, how long was he a Kohen Gadol? Was it 40 years or 80 years? 40 years or something, I think.
4 years.
Yeah. It was at the end of Menachos. We had the story with his sons. Anyway, he says all the years that he was a Kohen Gadol, he never ate the guilt offering of a nazir that became tamei. One of the 6 guilt offerings is a asham nazir, and that's when a nazir becomes tamei and he has to restart the count of nazirus, which is 30 days. the Nazir he doesn't cut his hair or drink wine, right? So says Bereisi. So Pamachas. Shimon HaTzadik says he never ate it except one time. What was the story? Well, Pamachas ba the mechad Nazir min Nedarim. This person came from the south. Bereisi, I saw Shu Yefei Einayim V'Teivrei. He has beautiful eyes, good looking. The Kavtaisav Sedurisli Taltalim, and his locks of hair were were arranged very nicely. What does it say? Yeah. How do they translate it?
Looking, and the fringes of his hair were arranged in curls.
In curls. Okay. Must have been like those, those wigs that the
It sounds like a chassid.
yeah, payas,
Grecian
and curly
girls.
payas.
Grecian.
So Amarti like Bani Mari Salahashkas Sarcha Zehana says, my son, what did you see to destroy this beautiful hair? Because a Nazir is going to have to shave his head, right? So Amarli, he said to me, Raya Hayisi La'aba Biri. I was a shepherd for my father in the city. And I went to fill up water from the spring. I saw my reflection in the water. So he saw how good looking it was. My Yetzer Hara was rushing against me. I wanted to destroy me from the world. It doesn't say exactly what he thought, but what was that Greek thing where someone was in love with himself? What was that? Was there one Greek thing?
Narcissa, yeah.
Yeah.
What was it?
But it doesn't say over here what he was. That what?
Now
Which
I know how
just-
beautiful I am, or what you are, because you saw a reflection in the
Oh, that
water.
was by Sarah, by Avram, when they went to Egypt. Yeah. Yeah.
So this was the common mirror.
Yeah, this is the common mirror back then. So it doesn't say what he wanted. I'll tell you Pshat soon. But meanwhile, he realized that his good looks is not so good for him. So Amarti Lei Russia says, I said to my Yetzer Hara. That's what he says. He spoke to his Yetzer. He says, wicked one. Why are you getting arrogant in a world that's not yours? That's in the end is going to be worms and maggots. Havuda. The solution is I just cut the hair off for the sake of heaven, which means like he'll become a Nazir.
Oh, you said the solution here, it's a voda by the temple service. Different.
Oh, really? That's what you think it means?
It says this expression connotes an oath.
Oh.
According to Rashi and Tan.
On mine, it has, I swear by the temple service. that I
Oh, okay, so that's good.
Interesting.
Uh-huh. No, I was just guessing that's what it means. That what will I do? Avuda means like what will I do? But here you're saying it has to do with an oath. Okay. So miyad amadati v'nashaktiv al reishi. Immediately I stood up and I kissed him on his head. Amarti lai b'ni kamecha yirban nizri naziris b'Yisrael. There should be more like you that take the vow of Naziris in Israel. Alecha akasavaymer. Regarding you, the verse says, Ishki yafli linder nezer nazir lahazer laHashem. Okay, so now we have a way of where there's a nazir that he play. You see, this fits very good with Iran, because here we see his sincerity that he really wanted to be a nazir. He ended up becoming tamei. And Shimon HaTzadik would eat the sacrifice because he knew how much he wanted to be a Nazir. Now, I saw a wild shot in this from the Marsha. Marsha has a shot like this. He says that he was a shepherd in his father's by his father. Says he came from the south because he was a wise man. And the Gemara tells us that Haretza Lahachkim, someone that wants to get wise should face the south when he prays, because the wisdom comes from the south, referring to the menorah is on the south. Well, and he was a shepherd for his father. He was doing kibbud aveim. When he looked at it in the mirror, he says, "Look at this. I'm so wise. I'm so beautiful. I should be a shepherd." Wanted to erase him from the world. Wanted him to violate mitzvahs kibbud aveim, which says "L'man yarichon yamecha," that gives a person long life. So he said, because you're so proud, you're going to take yourself away from the world. In other words, you're going to leave kibbud aveim. He wanted to go somewhere to get up more honor, to people would appreciate him. He was just a shepherd. He says this is similar to Absalom, that was also proud of his hair and rebelled against his father.
We know what happened.
Right. The Yitzhar is the Malach HaMavet. Very interesting. So basically, what the Yitzhar wanted him to do was to leave working for his father. Yeah, that.
Oh, wow.
So now it says, Maskefler of Mani, Maishna Ashim Nazir Tamed, Layachal, Dasi Al Chet, Kol Hashem Isnami, Layachal, Dal Chet Asum. Why are we saying that Ashim Nazir he wouldn't eat because he became Tameh? Maybe he shouldn't eat any Asham, because any Asham is a guilt offering. What's an Asham? It's a guilt offering. Amar Le Rabbi Yoina. Rabbi Yoina says, who asked this question? Ramani asked the question. Rabbi Yoina responds, the issue over here is different. The issue here, Tayin could mean when they regret. When they regret, that means why would a person become a Nazir? He says, I'm not doing things right. I have to correct my situation. So he says, accepts on himself to be a Nazir. Then they regret because it's taking too long. They didn't really regret what they were doing. They had guilty feelings. So they said, okay, I'm going to be a Nazir. I'm not going to drink wine anymore.
Wouldn't they just give like a carbon sacrifice?
Yes, that would be a carbon. A regular sin offering was, they brought the sin offering and that was it. But over here, they regretted what they were doing and they were trying to stop what they're doing, so they become a Nazir. And then they think it's going to be quick, but it turns out they became Tameh. They said, this I didn't want to go through. I didn't want it to be prolonged like this. I just thought I could get this over quickly. So Nimtz may be in Chulin Azar. It doesn't mean really Chulin, but it means like they didn't have the full kavana that this is what they really wanted. Gemara says, Yachi afilu Nazir tar nami. Then even a regular Nazir also, it has 30 days to do this. But it says Nazir tar aloi. That's different. He realized what he's doing at the beginning. He knew that he can handle 30 days. He didn't know that it was going to be 60 days because of getting Tameh at the end of the first Nazir, so he'd have to start over. Iba Yisema, another pshat we could say, Afilu Tamer Rabbi Yehuda. What are we doing over here? We're looking for a difference between a neder and a nedava. And we said, according to Reb Meir, it's possible that Reb Meir only says it's better not to take a vow than to take a vow and fulfill it. That was only by an actual vow. But when it comes to a gift, that it is possible to take. And righteous people do that. For example, the way Hillel did it, that he brought his sacrifice right to the temple, or the way this person in the days of Shimon HaTzadik that took the vow of Nazirus. Now we say it could even be Reb Yehuda. Now Reb Yehuda said that it's better to vow and pledge than to vow and it's better to vow and to fulfill than to he didn't say that, but he said than to vow and not fulfill. But he didn't mention, but he didn't make a distinction between the neder and nedava. Now we say no. Kiyama Rabbi Yehuda ben nedava. When did Rabbi Yehuda say that it's better to vow and then to fulfill it? That's because he was talking about a gift. He wasn't talking about a neder. But neder lo yamar. But he wasn't talking about a neder. The Gemara says, 1 second. He says better than this and this is to vow and to fulfill. He didn't say give. My answer is Tani Noidiv Makayim. Well, correct it. Add the little line on the bottom of the resh and it becomes a base. And teach it as Noidiv Makayim, that gift didn't fulfill. Maishna Noider Deloy Domasadeta Kala, Nadavanami Domasadeta Kala. Why would we make this distinction? There could be a mishap from both this and from that. Well, Rabbi Yehuda Latamei, Rabbi Yehuda, according to his reasoning, Damar Mevi, Adam Mevi Kiv Sasai Lazara, Makdisha V'Semech V'Sheichta. A person can bring the sheep to the courtyard and he can slaughter it right there. The Gemara says, Teinach Nedavid the Karbanas. That makes sense by a carbon. But Nedavid and Nazir is by a Klameimar. But what about by a Nazir? It says Rabbi Yehuda L'Tamei. Rabbi Yehuda follows his reasoning. The Tanya was started in the Brayso. Rabbi Yehuda Chassidim HaYishanim Mesav Labi Karban Chatas. The Chassidim HaYishanim wanted to bring a sin offering. Problem is they didn't have any sins. If you say Kadosh Baruch Hu, maybe it's Kal Al Yadayim. Hashem doesn't even make any mistakes happen to the tzaddik. The sin offering is only by a mistake.
Yeah.
So Mayo Isim. So what would they do? They would become a nazir. That a nazir has to bring a carbon chatas. That way they could bring a sin offering. Reb Shimon Aimer, Reb Shimon says, what would the sages, what would the Chassidim or Rishonim do? They wouldn't become a nazir. They would just bring the other sacrifices. If he wanted to bring an oila, misnadavu maybe he would dedicate an oila. That's a burnt offering. Shlomo, if he wanted to bring the peace offering, misnadavu maybe that he would bring taida. If he wanted to bring the gift, the Thanksgiving offering, and the 4 types of bread.
Carbon oil is just used like during the Chagim.
It is brought during the Chagim also, but it could also be a gift from anyone. It's just a burnt offering. The skin is given to the Kayanim. But he would bring the Thanksgiving offering with the 4 types of bread, 40 different loaves. But they wouldn't pledge to be a Nazir, so that they shouldn't be called sinners. As it says in atonement, it says regarding the sin offering, atonement because he sinned on the soul, that they would not do according to Reb Shimon. Okay, so according to Rabbi Yehuda, it is possible that there's a difference between a neder and a nedava, and he was only referring to the nedava, not to the neder. And we'll leave it over here.
The professor had a different lashon in his Gemara when